G'day, good morning everybody. It is such an honour to be on this stage today and to be sharing it with one of the great inspirations I know, not only of my life but of the lives of millions and millions of people. I'm not going to give you Professor Yunus's CV because you all know who he is, which is why you're here. You know he's a winner of the Nobel Prize, and he is one of the largest and most visionary thinkers that I think any of us in our lifetimes will have a chance to meet. So Professor Yunus, can I invite you up to the stage to have a conversation with me?
The call.
Let's take our seats and begin. Professor Yunus, in your book Social Business, you talk about the super happiness of running a social business, and that really resonated with me. I've spent 19 years now making mistakes as well as having some successes, sitting on the intersection of purpose and profit. And one of the reasons that I've found super happiness is because my life has been filled with heroes and inspired by heroes. You are one of my heroes. So I want to thank you so much for being here. On behalf of everybody in this room, thank you on behalf of Australia for being here and being gracious with your wisdom. Thank you on behalf of everybody in the world who's learnt and been uplifted by your work. It's an absolute honour to be sharing the stage with you. And I want to kick off the questions. I've got a few questions for you, and I want to kick off at quite a high level, philosophically and economically, if that's okay with you. One of the things that really strikes me in your speaking in your books is you talk about the mantra that people are fundamentally selfish and how damaging that is to our economic system, and that actually people want to be selfless, and that need underpins the social business movement. And so talking in this hour about the art of the possible, can you expand a bit for us on your concept that selflessness is driving people, particularly driving this next generation, and what that means for us in the social business movement?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to have a conversation with you. And thank you for organizers who organized this event, because this is a good occasion to kind of sit down, relax, and see where we are, what do we want to see, which are our front that we see in our dashboard, what direction we want to go. So that reflection is very important. That's what this is exciting for all of us. I got into this debate about selfishness because the more I worked with the poor people, bringing financial services, I see that no matter how much I demonstrate that it can be done, still financial institutions don't want to come anywhere near it. And I wonder what this is all about. Then I realized it's not the fault of the people who are making decisions, it's built into the system of the banking itself. Then I went beyond the banking, it's a whole core of the theory, where the theory is built on self-interest. And the self-interest is what drives the whole world, and the individuals getting into the action and trying to find an opportunity to promote their self-interest. And in the process, the whole world become kind of driven by self-interest. It's a money-centric world. People forgot that we are human beings. We are not some kind of robot which chases money only. There's nothing else they see. They cannot see anything else. As if their eyes, they put on glasses on their eyes, the only thing they see is a dollar sign, and they cannot see anything. And I wondered, is there something else that they should do to address the whole issue of other part of human being, the selflessness? I said, what happened to selflessness? So I got into debate saying that, oh, selflessness, you do that. We are not denying selflessness, but you have to do it outside of business. Here, business is business. You see, you must hear it again and again, business is business. Meaning that you have no room for any other consideration. Even if you have to kind of fool your immediate relative or immediate dear person, you will do that because you are in business. You have to sell it and make money out of it. But I said, why can't I do it in a business way? then I see that what I have done actually is on the basis of the other kind. It's not the selfishness, it's not the self-interest driven, it's a selfless driven, because all the companies I created, and I was trying to create, I did this to solve problem-solving businesses. We had no intention of making money. We created so many other companies. So I started saying these two aspects can be accommodated in the business world. And what we are doing in the social business is a selflessness-driven businesses where we are personally not getting benefit, we are benefiting the people. And that came as a kind of contrast and saying who should be interested in selflessness-driven business, because you miss out the whole incentive of business, which is money. That again and again came, the incentive is always about the money. Then I had to respond to that by saying, well, yes, I agree with you that money is a great incentive, but I disagree with you when you imply that money is the only incentive. So there's a difference between a great incentive and only incentive. I said making money is a happiness, that's why it's an incentive. Making other people happy is a super happiness.
And so you change the dialogue.
Yes, exactly.
You change the worldwide dialogue around the role of business in the world.
Yeah.
And then if you think about that spectrum, and I would say from traditional ways of thinking about business with one stakeholder, the shareholder, we even heard that debate playing out in the first session, to the other end of the spectrum, business with a social purpose, selfless business. How far along the spectrum have we gone? How happy are you with the way we've redefined the role of business in the world? How much progress have we made?
One thing comes out as we go along, the unhappiness, dissatisfaction, or kind of uneasiness with the greed-driven business. So we have to come up with many, many other alternatives. It's not now. It's been happening many, many years. We talked about cooperatives. We talked about B Corp kind of companies, limited profit companies, because if you want to be in business, you have to maximize profit. They have no option. Shareholders can actually sue you as a CEO of the company if you're not maximizing profit. So that's a threatening thing, that you are running a company. If you are deviate from maximization, shareholders can sue you. Law allows you to do that. So the people who wanted to get away from that, they created alternative kind of structures with B Corp and so on and so forth. So this is going on. Now we have a slew of things called social investment, social impact investments, social enterprises, and many others, varieties of it. I said, I have no problem with that. You are only showing that this is not the perfect shape, the centrally driven, greed-driven companies. You need to mix with social aspects also. So I said, if you put this spectrum, as you mentioned, on the one side of the spectrum, you can put 100% profit, nothing else, like business is business. You don't want to care what other people think about it, but business is business. Then you shift a little bit. It's a 1% social, 99% profit, and go on in that direction. And you come 50% social, 50% profit. And you come to the other end, you see 99% social, 1% profit. And then come to the point where 100% social, 0 profit. So our position on the social business is that point, 100% social, no profit at all, no personal profit at all. So you can choose any way you want. I mean, this is a choice of people. Ultimately, my decision is what matters. It's me, and not theory or anything. If I want to mix, I will mix. If I want to make exclusively social, I will do the social. So you can discuss to see where I should locate myself. That's the thing. And I say, what is wrong with the 100% social? What's good about mixing social and profit? One way I try to explain by saying that, well, if you mix, whichever way you're mixing, you call it social impact and so on, we are not quite sure what point in the spectrum you're talking about. Are you 99% profit or 1% social? Or 50-50? because that's not clearly said. It's the only thing you're saying you're mixing. The mixing needs proportion of which and what kind. So even the other one is, if you're mixing something, I say, by nature of mixing, you do less of both. You make less profit because you sacrifice something for the social. You do less social because you sacrifice from the profit. So we decided to go on the other extreme. We do the maximum of social, zero profit, because that's how we feel good. That's why the super happiness thing comes about.
Yeah, and of course that has led the way and modelled absolute purity in the model. We're seeing a lot of millennials and Gen Ys now who are coming into the space, and I know you're doing the Yunus organisation, you're doing some wonderful work in universities now. Can you tell us a bit about how you think about that generation and how they are perceiving where they sit on that spectrum between profit and purpose? And is that the reason that you're moving into universities to try and teach and explain a new way of thinking about business?
Education itself puzzled me because I'm coming from the direction of education. I was a teacher, so I see how that is not providing the kind of thing that the young people need to know so that they can make their decision. It's kind of giving a single type of education that this is what your fortune, this is what your future. And I didn't think that is the right thing to do. They should be introduced to the options. I said, let them take the options. For example, in economics, if they're teaching business, I said the students should be told that there are two kinds of businesses. Business to make money, business to solve problems. Very clearly, this is what you do. In profit-making business, they will say, oh, we solve problems too. Then you have explained that yes, they do, but that is not their objective. Their objective was to make money. Sometimes it comes as a byproduct that on the way they solve some problem. If I have a kind of bus service between a point where there's no arrangement for people to travel, I made a bus service. I did that because I saw an opportunity to make money. In the process, I helped people to ride the bus and come here. But that was not the objective. That was the byproduct of my making money. But when we say problem-solving business, it is dedicated to solving that particular problem. If you are not solving that problem, you have no business to call yourself social business because you are not doing that part. So these are the kind of things students should know, should learn. That's how academics become important, because grown-ups already have their minds set. Their eyes are already fitted with the glasses where you see the dollar signs. But the students, young people, are not fitted with that glass yet. So I said they can be given two kinds of glasses, one with the dollar sign, another with the social signs in the glasses. So you can put on the social glasses and you see all the opportunities to change the world.
Right.
In a business way.
And how wonderful is that their thinking is so uncapped.
Absolutely.
They are going to be able to think further than any of us in this room will ever be able to think,
Sure.
because they don't have the same glasses on and
Sure.
they were born in the internet
Exactly.
age,
Yep.
which is wonderful. One of the things that always strikes me working in the social business sector is how much of the knowledge that's coming and that Gen Y and the millennials are now grabbing is actually traditional knowledge of some of the first peoples on the planet who built the world, their world, with sharing systems. And really all we're doing, I think, in many ways is going back to a set of sharing systems and understanding, how important it is we're part of a wider community, back to the selflessness rather than the selfishness. Can I ask you a wee bit about entrepreneurship? You're obviously a huge promoter of entrepreneurship. You talk wonderfully about don't go get a job, be an entrepreneur, build a business. Can you tell us a wee bit about how you think about that? Do you think that everybody is an entrepreneur? And how important you think entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship is, to the journey that the world is going to go on going forward?
Yes, you can say I'm a promoter of entrepreneurship, but that's not how I see myself. I say I come from the end where I'm saying that people are born as an entrepreneur. So I'm just pointing that out. I said, you figure it out, whether I'm saying the right thing or wrong thing. I said human beings are not born to work for somebody else. That's not what is in the DNA of human being. And I refer to the human history on this planet for hundreds of thousands of years of living here. I said, at no stage of its history of human being they were actually sending job application to anywhere. They didn't. And I said, when we were living in the caves, we are not sending job application from cave number 5 to cave number 10. Do you have a job for me? We got things done ourselves. That's our history. That's human beings. That's how we survived on this planet. We were known by, later on, when the history is written, as a hunter. That's how we began. As a gatherer, as farmer. That's our history. It's probably a couple of centuries or maybe 2.5 centuries that we got into this idea of working for somebody. Until then, it didn't exist. So in our DNA, it is all about being go-getters. We are problem solvers. Suddenly, problem solvers are being asked to work for somebody else. And that education system comes into the picture, kind of reinforcing this idea, saying that you have to go and work and get your degrees, get ready to work for other people, the companies, governments, or whatever they're hiring you for. So your life is almost dedicated to find a job. Once you find a job, rest of your life is done. You just keep on repeating that. I protest on the side of the DNA, that we are not born for a job. Another thing is that human beings are packed with unlimited creative capacity. That's what made us human beings, and that's how we survived on this planet. As a job, in most cases at least, job is the end of creativity. Because you don't need your creativity anymore, because when you start your life as an employee of some organization, usually you'll be working under a supervisor who will be guiding you what you have to do, and usually a minor supervisor, because you don't see the big supervisor, big guys on the top yet. You see the one. I said, he or she is the one who shapes you. And in the process of shaping, they trim you off completely what you are. So I say, the whole process is losing yourself, your own identity, who you are, the enormous creative power that you used to have. Now it's all gone because you are put in a kind of little robot put into a machine that you will be repeating this as you grow a little bit as a robot shape, not as a creative person that you used to be. So I said, that is also a very damaging thing for people. Why should I do that? Why should I sacrifice myself? Then people say, well, there is no alternative. What can you do? I said, of course there's alternative. You had the idea planted that I'm an entrepreneur, I'll be looking for my entrepreneurial things. But now my mind is damaged by saying that all I can do is get a job. And politicians promising will create jobs, business promising will create jobs. You see, all the discussion is creating jobs, as if that's where you have to fit in. And I'm saying, no, I'm not going to fit in. I'm myself. What's wrong with me? Yeah. So what we did in Bangladesh, this question came, unemployment and other issues. So I kept saying to the young people, forget about those job ideas. Job is an absurd idea. This is a very old-fashioned idea. This should have ended long back. Now, you train yourself, your mind that you are not a job seeker, you are a job creator. So repeat to yourself that I'm not a job seeker, I'm a job creator. And feel like a job creator. And feel tall rather than a job seeker where you feel small. You are at the mercy of other people. No human being has to be at the mercy of anybody else. Yeah. Human being itself is a complete in its own. It doesn't have to be at the mercy of anybody.
I think that's a fantastic philosophy, except for anyone who works for the Adara Group. We don't want you to become entrepreneurs. We want you to unleash your creativity inside Adara. But in our work on the ground with women and children in extreme poverty in Uganda and Nepal, one of the things that's really struck me over the years is the incredible spirit of entrepreneurship and innovation that exists in communities where innovation and entrepreneurship is a necessity. It's a survival necessity. And I'm often thinking that if we could only bring some of those innovators and entrepreneurs into the developed world, we would really unleash thinking in a way that I agree with you, that we often struggle with in the West, where we live in a path that society takes us down and repeat these mantras. Do you agree with that? Do you think there's a huge amount of innovation?
You see, third worlds are described with the huge informal sector. I've been debating, I've been contesting that. I said, this is a kind of downgrading the people who are in the informal sector, saying this is not something good, you should be quickly coming out of the informal sector into the formal sector. You see the logic of it? Informal sector means people are making a life on their own. See? Formal sector means you have to find a job. Basically, that's what they say. No, they're not saying that, no, you grow into a big business. That's not what they're saying. They're saying you come to the formal sector so that you can get a job and so on, so everybody is busy. I said, that's very damaging. This is what they started. They were the self. The very strength of those third world countries is that informal sector. We should be promoting that informal sector, glorify that informal sector, rather than kind of giving a signal this is no good. You try to get it out as soon as possible. But we have not created any institutions to support that informal sector. So what we are doing to encourage the young people to move into the path of entrepreneurship, created social business fund and asked them to come with a business idea. And once you come with a business idea, we invest in your business. And we become your partner so that you don't have to worry about how am I doing, what can I do, what happens to if I fail, everything will be lost. I said, nothing will be lost. We are partner. And it's not only your business, it's my business too, because we are partner. So it's equity support, it's a venture capital. So let's work together, make sure that you are successful. Once you're successful, just return the money we gave you, because we are social business, we are not interested in your money, in your profit. You go ahead and continue your business. If you need a second round of money, we'll be available to you. We'll give you the second round of money and continue. And now thousands of young people come with business ideas. We keep on investing. We have no trouble with that businesses and so on. So we feel very kind of reconfirmed that yes, given the opportunity, people can bring out their entrepreneurial capacity, because we are not giving them the capacity. What we do normally, when you are unemployed, you don't know anything, and if Bangladesh was a rich country, what it would have done, it would have given the welfare. Okay, I'll write you a check. We will put you in the state charity. So our charity budget will become big, and people will be, okay, I don't have to work. I got the state charity. I said, that's the wrong path. You are now using the occasion, instead of finding the solution, you made it more acute. Because not only you destroyed the idea of entrepreneurship that they could have done, you now put them into isolation and paralyzed situation. They gradually start losing all their creative faculty, because I don't have to do anything. All I have to do is to stay on, alive, that's all.
Can I push you a wee bit, excuse me, on that? I'm very interested in this subject, because the philanthropic sector, the concept of charity, of welfare, is being quite derided. And you know, as the private sector moves into social space, social enterprise space, social business space, there's a lot of talk about how damaging welfare can be and how damaging charity can be. And from my perspective, working with people who are in extreme poverty and cashless economies often, you know, I believe that philanthropists are some of the greatest heroes and visionaries of our time, and I think there's no higher order of a human being than to give. So it concerns me that we start to talk about welfare and charity in a disparaging way, although I absolutely respect what you're saying, that another route for people who are vulnerable out of their situation is through entrepreneurship and the markets. Do you agree with that? How do you feel about the way we're talking about philanthropy?
Let me clarify then. The first responsibility of all human beings is to help people who are in distress. There's no compromise on that. We have to give the support to the people who are in distress. But the additional point I'm making in that, they should not be on help up to eternity. I always accept the fact that human beings are creative beings. Human beings are built to take care of himself, not only himself or herself. He is also built for taking care of the rest of the world. That's what the human being is. If you put him in a permanent charity, you are taking away his original nature, who he is or who she was. I said, what it would be, when I do help, when I give charity, either state charity or personal charity, it should be time-bound. It should not be for lifelong thing. And my second responsibility, first responsibility is help. That's where the charity comes in. It's a wonderful thing to do. The next responsibility for anybody would be to help the person get out of charity. Somehow we forget the second part of it. We'll do the first part of it, then walk away as if we are done. I said, that is very damaging. As a result, what happened, not only he or she is in state welfare or state charity, that passes on to the second generation. I have met in Scotland, in Glasgow, 6th generation welfare recipients. So imagine what damaging thing that can happen. University was explaining, Glasgow Caledonian University, with which I'm associated, they were explaining they have tried many times to get these welfare people to come out, to take the young people to bring to the university so that they can train them, so that they can get some jobs. The first time they tried, they trained them, they were well trained, and they went out. Now the university thought, now for these kids, now the problem is over, they will be coming out of welfare. Few months later, 6 months, 9 months later, they checked them out. What happened? Every one of them back in their old style of life. They don't go to any work, anything. Why? They didn't like it. Okay, so they tried to, they said there's no job, they don't give us a permanent job, so we quit. So they trained them again, this time connect to the actual job. So that again, they found out later on, they quit the job, they relapsed to the old old habit, because their whole faculty of work is destroyed because they are generational welfare people. I said it needs harder kind of action to see that they can undo their past and become an entrepreneur or job seeker as a person. So I said it's a damaging for human being to stay in welfare for life. And that's not the human life, I think, is all about. So to that extent, I will differ if you say that charity should take care of them for all the time to come. I will not agree with that.
No, I don't agree with that either.
Sure,
I think it's all pieces of the puzzle.
Exactly.
So, and I'm really interested in where social business fits into that huge puzzle. And we're sitting in Australia, in the developing world, obviously, with the incredible work you've done leading the microfinance industry, it clearly has direct applicability in the developing world. Do you think the social business movement also has applicability in the very lucky countries like Australia and other very wealthy countries?
We define social business as it's a non-dividend company to solve human problems. So now coming to Australia, does Australia has problems? If it does, then you try social business. Among many other tools you'll be trying, why not try also social business? For example, we are discussing welfare. This would be a good subject for social business. Anybody in this audience can design a social business in probably 10 to 15 minutes to take 5 welfare people out of welfare by designing a social business. It's not a rocket science. Simply, we don't think that way.
We're not thinking that way. Also, I think in the developed world, we're very risk adverse. So you've got a lot of social entrepreneurs sitting in this room or aspiring social entrepreneurs, and society tells them this is very risky. You're going to make yourself, insecure and unsafe because of the mantra of money and the importance of money. What words of encouragement do you offer to aspiring social entrepreneurs, whether they want to sit in the social business end or the social enterprise end, or just beginning their journey? What is it that you say to them to encourage them?
One way I would say that all my life that I began with these tiny little things in the one village is a story of defiance. I keep telling the young people, defy. Don't accept what other people say. Then you'll be sucked into their system. If you're sucked into the system, you have no escape. You find your way. And only way you can do that, by defiance. Don't accept what others say. And if you think your thing is right, pursue that. Be stubborn. Unless you're stubborn, you cannot create anything. If you have to listen to your teacher, you listen to your mother, you listen to your father, listen to your government, you listen to your neighbors, you'll be stuck. You defy. You defy, say, this is me. I have one life to live. And I'll live it in my way. And I have to work it out, what is my way? That's the challenge to me. And that challenge one has to meet by defiance. By accepting norms, you are following the same path. And I'm a repeated thing, I say, if you follow the same path, you go to the same destination. Right. If you want to go to a separate destination, you have to build a new path. Right. And when you build a new path, everybody will scream, what are you doing? Are you crazy? This is all full of dangers. Because everybody thinks they are the smart ones, follow the same path. So a new path is a danger. Of course, you're a pioneer. Pioneer is somebody who faces danger and adversities and so on. So that's what the human life is all about. That's how we find things to do.
And so defiance actually marks the story of your life, and I love that. Nevertheless, she persisted, and I believe we're seeing real greatness rising around the world as people are standing up and defying traditional thinking. But for you personally in your journey, can you share a little bit with us what it has been like in terms of the pushback against you, political pushback that has come against you and the work that you have done, the complexities in your own beloved country of Bangladesh, from those who have seen you as a threat? How have you managed that journey of defiance to stand so strong and so tall with such integrity through the whole of your life?
First of all, I was lending money to women. So I was opposed by men. Not only men is this general class, the very husband of the woman that I'm lending money to, he was the most aggressive opponent of my work because he feels threatened by my giving money to his wife. He thinks that his authority in the family will be diminished if the wife has money. And he was genuinely concerned that his wife is not smart enough to handle money because he has never seen his wife doing any smart thing. Because he's always saying, yes, sir, everything will be done, and taking orders from him all the time. So here, if you give the money, she'll be ruining this money, spoiling this money, and then you'll come and get me to pay the money for her. So he gets very concerned. Both together, he is opposing us, and he's bringing all the men together to oppose us. So this is the beginning of thing that man, woman tussle. And then religious people got into the picture because it's Bangladesh, it's a Muslim country. They don't want women to be given any kind of incentive to get involved with business and getting out of the house. The women's place is in the house. They shouldn't get out. So that became another debate with us. They were very strong. They said, we are destroying the religion. So when religion gets into the picture, it's become very sensitive. So we had to fight with them with the religious arguments, showing how Islam allows women to be there in business and so on, give examples from the history of Islam to say. So anybody who will oppose women doing business will give very concrete examples from history of Islam so that they cannot attack us for that. Political parties were very concerned when we were beginning at the time. The leftist parties thought this is a capitalist conspiracy because they were. I'm come to the United States with a fresh degree and so on. I'm a CIA agent, starting to ruin the country because they are hoping for the socialist revolution. They are all waiting for the revolution to come at that time. So they thought I'm destroying the revolution. So I used to joke with them when we were still very small. I said, look, we have a small country when you look at the educated class of the country. So I used to tell them, look, I'm only, there are 80,000 villages in Bangladesh. We are now only 80 villages in Bangladesh. So still all the other villages left. You better start the revolution fast because I'm coming and taking over all of them. So you don't blame me later on. So you get your act together and get it done rather than keep promising the revolution is coming, and it's not coming at all. So in the meantime, I take it over. So anyway, this this is one of the things that, but the thing very serious, they attack our branches, the extreme leftists, they will give you life threats to our staff and so on. So it continues and we take it. We said, okay, if people like us to do their thing, nobody can harm us, we'll continue. We continued. So this kind of thing always happened, opposition. And then worst kind of opposition came from the academics, from the donors. I didn't ask for money, but they wanted to give us money and then give conditions. I said, why are you giving all those things, give conditions? I don't ask for any money. I can do it on my own. So it continued. We had big battles with the donors like USAID. We had big fight with the World Bank. A continuous fight. It's not a small fight. So that's, and you are all along. You are fighting with people. We are along the way. You are fighting with the bankers, saying that you are confusing people by doing all this. This is not banking. This is just a make-believe things you're doing, and you're manipulating your accounts and showing that everybody is paying back. So everybody has a distrust. When you do something new, they think it's somebody is trying to fool you, somebody is trying to derail you on your path and creating chaos for you.
So you should just expect it and just hold to your own truth. Don't be afraid to defy.
Yes, one way I tried to explain to my colleagues, they get very upset when I said that how do we do this if they keep condemning us, keep attacking us all the time. I said, look, we are doing something new. If you are doing it and nobody says a word about it, I'll be very worried. Maybe we're not doing the right thing. The fact that they are rebelling, they are attacking us, that means it's hurting them. Not hurting them physically or financially, hurting them intellectually, because their thoughts are being damaged, because we are presenting something as an alternative, and we are not asking for them to give money, we're not asking the government to do anything, we're not asking any other people to do, we just do our own thing.
Yeah, so hear the voice
It's
of affirmation.
yeah.
Hear that voice of dissent as an affirmation that you're on the right path.
That's it.
So the other thing that you've done in your life, which is I've watched in awe with through your journey, is you've thought really big. So if we're talking to people in this room who want to be out there doing something out of construct with social business, you know, you think at a level in terms of the size of potential impact that I think is quite unparalleled. You know, you don't just decide you want to deliver nutritional supplements. You go out and find Danone, or they find you, and build yogurts that can change the lives of millions of kids worldwide. How is it that you've managed to think so big? And again, in terms of talking to the generation that comes, the millennials and the Gen Ys, how can you encourage them to think really big about the world's problems, not just in a small way, you know, in their own corner?
See, when you follow the path, whatever path that is that we continue, you are all set. You know where to go, you get a job, you get a promotion, you finally become chief executive of the company, or come near about that level and so on. That's the end of your life. So you know all that. I tell the young people, if you feel this is your destiny, fine, go ahead. But if you think your destiny is different, you should be thinking what kind of world you want to build. And sometimes they will tell you that this is an utopian thing. Make it as wild utopian as you can get. I said, imagination is what will drive you, not the reality. You want to get away from the reality. You want to get to the utopia. And that's the utopia. Go in details of utopia, what kind of world that you want to build. You are a free person. And it doesn't cost you a penny to build that world in your mind. You write it up, what are the features of that world. And every year you check back whether you want to add anything more into it or change anything, make it wilder than it was before. As you do that you establish that's your destination. Now build the road to get there. Because if you do not define your destination, you will never get there. So your first job is to define the destination. And not a tiny destination. Destination for the whole world, for everybody. And then you start building bridges, building roads, then you'll see you will getting closer and closer to that. Pieces are happening. Because many of those features that you build, your friend also has created something which is a similar nature of this. And then it will happen. If you try to tinker with the present, little improvement here, improvement there, that's not going to take you anywhere. You are created to do big things. So imagination will drive you. Once you have done that, start very small.
Yeah, okay.
Don't
That's
forget
interesting.
that. Yes.
Take the big picture and
yes,
then begin small.
Very small.
Okay.
Not only small, very small. So that you can manipulate it, you handle it, even if it doesn't work, still you don't feel bad about it, you start all over again, because it's very small. If I had to, like in Australia, this discussion keeps coming back with the welfare people, I said, if you think that I want to create Australia a welfare-free country, that's my job. I want to do that. Start with taking 5 welfare people out of welfare first. Create a social business and see how to take. Don't preach it unless you have seen that it can be done. Once you do it, then preach it at the loudest of voice. That, see, I have done it. I have taken these 5 people who are on welfare so many years. I helped them to get out. Not that I pushed them out. They willingly, happily came out, and they are all smile every day now that they are out of it. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. And since I have done 5, I can now do 10. I can do now 15. Would you like to do another 5? In the process, you'll see the whole thing is disappeared.
So you model it and then you inspire
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anything you need to build, if you're doing business or you design a product, you have to prototype. Prototype is the most important thing. And prototype is not a giant thing. You don't see millions of pieces of prototype. You create one prototype. It takes years to make that first prototype. Once you build that prototype which works, then you can go with millions of pieces.
Right, that's fascinating because in the social enterprise space, there's a lot of talk about scale.
Yeah.
And a lot of negativity coming in saying these social enterprises are too small. No. But I think what I'm hearing you say is, as long as you see the wide context and the big picture, that's exactly what you want.
It fits in, yeah.
Okay.
And also, again, in the social business, it's advantageous because it's self-contained. When we created microcredit is a good example. We are not doing nationwide. Only thing we're trying to do, the first branch that we had, can we come to the level of break-even so that we cover all the cost of this branch? I don't have to depend on anybody. Then it creates surplus. Once you know that this is working, second branch can follow the same path. It comes to the break-even point. So if every one of them can run by itself, it doesn't need any infusion of anything after that.
Actually, that's really interesting. I want to take you into discussing microfinance, which is obviously a fascinating example of social business. It hasn't been without conflict and controversy. As the father of a whole industry that's really touched the world, have you been surprised by some of the things that have happened? Have you been surprised when you've woken up and said people are using microfinance in the name, effectively, they're payday lenders, they're creating indebtedness for the poor at terrible interest rates. This isn't what I expected. How's that journey been from your perspective in terms of triggering the industry? Do you think it's on track now?
Well, it's never on track. And I kept repeating that same thing. I said, one clear thing to remember, there's a right microcredit and there's a wrong microcredit. Even the payday lenders now call themselves microcredit. So where can you go now? So you have to figure out what is the right one. Because right microcredit is a social business. It doesn't want to make money for themselves. It's trying to solve the problem of the people. So if somebody is trying to make money for themselves, that's in the wrong microcredit side. So you suspect first and dig it out. And even there we allow some flexibility. We said, if the interest rate, because that's a key to find out what's being done, if the interest rate is something like cost of fund plus 10%, if it is within that range, you are a green microcredit, you are okay microcredit, you are right microcredit. If cost of fund plus 10 to 15%, then you are in the yellow zone. You are not quite, but try to push it down. You are a high level, but still you are microcredit, but push it down to the green level. Cost of fund plus 15% and above, you are in the red zone. You are no longer microcredit.
Those are still huge interest rates in an interest rate environment that is as low as it is now. And it strikes me that charging the poor interest 10% over cost of funds or whatever your number is, whether you're green, yellow or red, is making the poor pay for service delivery to themselves.
Sure.
And is that how you see it? That this is, I mean, and I wonder how the non-profit sector and the philanthropy fits with that, because if there is a very low rate of interest and people who are contributing the capital bases to allow this to happen are not expecting capital to be returned or reused, of course.
It's fine, you can do that, but you can do a boutique microcredit. You cannot expand it.
So it's about scale.
Well, to scale. You're feeling fine because you have done it to 500 women or 500 people. We're talking about 5 million people. We're talking about 5 billion people. Then you have to be self-sustaining. That's why I say I don't need any money from the donors. You see, a little while back, I don't need any money from the government. I feel free. I don't care what you say because I do my own thing. See? So that's a big power. And that thing is owned by the poor people. Grameen Bank is owned by the poor people. The borrowers are the owners of the bank. So they don't care what price you are paying, because if the bank is making money, it's coming back to them as a dividend. So they are very happy with that. There's no problem with that.
So if you had to do it all over again, of all the incredible achievements that you've had in the microfinance side, is there anything you do differently? Has it been a learning journey for you?
First of all, the village that I started telling later on that this is my university. That village has taught me all the things I have learned. And Grameen Bank is my laboratory. Everything I do came out of my experience of that microcredit experience. All the things I'm talking about, social business, everything came through it. It was not a separate thing. Today we are talking on a separate subject, social business, microcredit, because the word microcredit becomes so popular. The moment they see us, they start talking about microcredit. They forget that the much bigger piece is the social business. It changes the entire thinking process. We are talking about redesigning of the entire capitalist system. It's not just a little piece of redesigning a bank or something. We're saying the whole economic system designed by the capitalist theorist is totally wrong.
Right.
It's flawed.
So let's pull you out of micro and go to macro.
You
talk about turning the pyramid into a diamond.
Sure.
Can you explain what you mean by that?
I was saying that look what happens to the wealth concentration level. See? If you today take wealth concentration information, put it in a graph, say you put a bar diagram or a histogram for each percentile of population as you go from one percentile to the next percentile. All the bar that you'll see will be nearly close to the axis. It's not getting out, it's hugging the axis. Suddenly you come to the last percentile, it hits the ceiling. Because all the wealth in the last percentile, 99% of the wealth is in the hands of 1% of the people. So that's 99. I'm talking about percentile, which is 10, which is almost 99.9% of the wealth belongs to the top 10%. Remaining is for the rest of the people. I said, this is ugly. This is untenable. Society will blow up. I keep telling that this is a ticking time bomb waiting to explode any day. Then people say, well, maybe it's a global thing, but it's not relevant to my country. I said, figure that out. See what your figures looks like. How much of the wealth in your country is concentrated in how many few hands. Concentration of wealth is not a kind of terrible information alone. Concentration of wealth also means concentration of power, political power, media power, economic power, no matter what you do. I hold the media, I hold the economy, it's at my disposal. So that's, no matter how much we talk about democracy, if you keep that kind of economic structure, capitalist structure, that democracy is on the surface. It's not the deep inside. Because deep inside, my voice doesn't count, because media will tell you now we hear from the US, alternative truths. alternative truths will start coming. Somebody was asking me a question, a journalist, what is your remark about the Trump cabinet? These are all multi-millionaires, each one of them. I said, they control the power. What can you do? You don't control power. They control the power, they control the media, they control everything. So this is the way it will be. And that's why the Bernie Sanders was repeatedly saying that 1/10 of 1% of the US population own 90% of the wealth of the United States. Right. So that's a danger part of it when you have the concentration. Now it's getting faster and faster concentration. That's the dangerous part of it. If it goes faster and faster, tomorrow it will be worse. Then it will be not 99% of the wealth owned by 1%. It will be 0.5% of population owning 99% and a half of the wealth. So that society cannot exist. It cannot function. It's simply, it will just waiting for that big explosion.
So we can see that it's untenable.
Totally untenable.
And we can see that it has to change. And you asked the question, what can we do? And I'm very interested in your comments about China, because it's an economy that's emerging into a capitalist economy, if you like, a controlled economy. And you have said that China has the chance, as we're seeing increasing growth and wealth there, to do things differently. Can you drill down for us a bit into how you would see...
Yeah, this was a debate we were having. I was in China recently. I was saying, look, you still have a chance because you blindly followed all the capitalistic features. You built it in. Quickly, billionaires after billionaires is being produced in China. And the concentration processes began. I said, it's still very small compared to what happened in other countries like United States and Europe and so on. Including probably Australia. I don't know about Australia, but they probably follow the same European path, despite all the things that social orientation and everything. I said, you can escape that. You don't have to blindly follow everything that the capitalist system has to do. It will be consistent with you, transform your economy into a social business economy. This is just befitting to your philosophy because you don't want to make money for yourself. You want to do things so that everybody has a chance, everybody has things. So I said, you take the alternative path, not this path. And that's what is the option. Otherwise, China will be no different than the United States or anybody else.
So you see social business as such a significant
Very
potential
significant.
contributor
Very significant.
that it can be the thing that shapes the pyramid into the diamond, that it can chase. So
one path.
Okay, so tell us about...
should I explain why I think so?
Please, please.
I think you'll be curious to know. Yeah. What is the cure in the social business? Yeah. A very definition of social business is a non-dividend. So whatever business I'm creating is not going to anybody. So the fact that all the money is going to few hands because they get all the profit of these companies. So they become bigger and bigger and bigger. Not that they are greedy people, they are hungry people, monsters. I was giving the example, I said last year it was 62 people who own more wealth than the bottom 50% of the people. This year it was 8 people. From 62 people.
8 men, actually.
Just 8 men, actually. 8 men. I'm glad you mentioned that. 8 men own more wealth than the bottom 50%. I said, look at those 8 men. Their pictures are on every newspaper. They're all known people. When they come to the city, we go there, kind of take selfie with them, and we love them. All the stories we talk about them. The Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Mark Zuckerberg, Carlos Slim. These are the 8 people. So we know them. They don't look like monsters. They look like kind people, very generous people, and so on and so forth. But how did that become just such a huge amount of money piled after them? As a system did that. They were not going for give me the money, not grabbing anything. Simply system worked the way, the more money you have, the more money you get. So wealth is like a magnet. If you have a big magnet, you take more things come to you. If you have a tiny magnet, you don't catch much. So we all have the tiny, tiny, tiny thing. We don't catch. They catch everything. They catch us too, because their magnet catch our magnet. So that's why that's the system that we built. In social business, what is happening? Imagine, just for the imagination's sake, if all the businesses were social business, just an imagination, will there be wealth concentration? No. Because there is no concentration, because nobody is taking any profit out of it. This is simply a system which generates its own function, its expense, its growth, everything is there. Simply, it doesn't come to me, and I'm happy with that.
So it changes the nature of the
changes
system.
the nature of the whole.
Yeah.
Suppose 50-50. Half the economy is social business, half the business is conventional business. Half the business will create those concentration, other half is not contributing to that. So that way it slows down.
Right.
And on top of it, as I said the first time, everybody can become an entrepreneur. If all of us became entrepreneurs, 100%, imagine what happens to wealth concentration. It cannot happen because I pick up my part, you pick up your part, everybody picks up your. They cannot use us as their mercenaries. I work for them and they make the money.
Right.
And the whole world is working for them and they make the money.
Hold on, Richard. I can see you loitering over there.
I'm loitering, yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's just so stimulating. I know lots of people will love a little bit of time for a
Sorry,
couple
I
of
didn't
questions.
realise you wanted me to open to the floor.
Yeah.
But I'm very
That's why
happy
I'm just trying to remind you. But if you've got something you wanted to...
Yeah, no, we've got, so I'm sure everybody has got a million questions for yes.
Should we go over here first? Yes, just wait for a second and just say your name into the mic, please, when I hand you the mic.
Yeah, sure. My name's Tom. How you doing? Just a question around, you said that when you were sort of pioneering this whole microfinance movement, that there were a lot of detractors. And I'm really interested to understand, what was the tipping point for when people actually started to accept it, to when they actually started to advocate for the movement, and what could have been done to make that happen faster?
Distractors began at the beginning and grew as we grew. Still there are lots of distractors. Still people say, microcredit is not a solution, that doesn't solve poverty. These are just a kind of pleasant words, doesn't have anything. They will say that. We don't care what they say, because we do our thing, we don't harming them. This is a business, we run business, they pay back, and so on. So we can take that. Whether microcredit solves all the problem of poverty, we never said that. If we had said microcredit will solve the problem, we'll go and sleep by now, because we have done our job, nothing to do. We are struggling still, solving one after another problem. Healthcare, environment, and housing, and sanitation, and children, malnutrition. We have not given up because it's still a lot of other things to do. Microcredit goes in a central way because it gives you the capacity to energize yourself, use your power to do things on your own. But at the same time, you need other things to happen to you, because healthcare doesn't come right away for you. You have a good food, that's good, better food. You're not hungry, so health is better, and that's it. But there are diseases and things, environment is, your housing is poor, so we have to address that. So while we didn't say that it will take care of all the poverty issue over, then they impose it on us and say it is not doing that. And so many other issues, microcredits are not as good as they say, that kind of thing continues. So distractors will continue. But as long as we are in the right path of microcredits, I say distinguish between the right microcredit, the wrong microcredit. On the wrong microcredit, there is a high interest rate and so on. At the same time, abuse of the whole concept. Like in microcredit that we created is all about giving financial services to help person to create her own business, income generating activity. Now the wrong microcredit, they will give you loan for consumer goods so that you can buy things you don't need. Some company will kind of encourage you to support them by giving loans to buy their product. You come with those.
We have some other questions. If that's...
Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Bumi. And thank you, Professor. It's been quite instructive to listen to you, particularly about the spectrum that you painted about. You know, one end you've got a social business, strictly 100%, and the other you've got the profit-motivated businesses. I was just keen to understand your take on businesses like Uber or Airbnb. Would you think, are these social businesses in some point because they actually help to solve some of our social problems? And they've sort of changed the dynamics of how business is done. So,
let me repeat it again. What social business is? It's a non-dividend company. Does Airbnb give dividend or takes profit? If it does, then it's not a social business. Our definition is 100% social, zero profit.
So do you see it as a social enterprise, which is along the spectrum?
You give many names.
It's not about the name.
That it's not a name. When you say social enterprise, then I'll ask you, what is the proportion?
Yeah.
Is it 1%, 99%,
Yeah.
or 99%, 1%? We don't know.
Yeah.
But here it's very clear. It's a zero.
Yeah.
Zero is a well-defined number.
Yeah.
So it's no problem.
We've got a question here.
Hi, Professor, it's Dina. I have a question on that point. You talk about social business being 100% social, zero profit. How then do you have enough reserves to drive growth and sustainability going forward?
Just again clarify, I was using profit as a general term. It's always been personal profit. I don't take the money out of the business. Profit stays. Company makes profit, profit stays with the company. I take my investment money back out of the profit. When I got my money back, after that I don't take a penny out of the business. The business covers all the things that you think of so that it's a healthy business, no problem, does it good, expand, and everything that you can think about. Only thing I'm taking away in this theory, that I don't want to make profit. Would anybody be interested in that? That the Beatles song comes in. I'm the dreamer. Maybe there are some. Someday you'll join with us. Up to you. It's not something that you have to do. Nobody's dictating you. This is a part that if you can, they are dreamers, they'll do that. How many dreamers there are? Maybe few. But someday, hopefully, more will join. That's all.
Hi, my name is Elena Wilson. Wanted to talk about the future of the dreamers. You briefly touched upon the education system, how it's not necessarily preparing our children, being creative and encouraging them to use their full potential. I would love to hear your views about how could we transform the education system to better support that.
One idea that I share with the school children, I said, and the teachers too, I said one of the things the school children, college children can do as a part of their curriculum, whatever they are teaching, there will be exercise for 1 month or 1 week, whatever time period they give. Every one of them will be assigned what will be the features of the world that they want to build. What kind of world? You hear that it will be equal, it will be good, it will be this. Let them find out and say, number 1, it will be like this. Number 2, it will be like this. Number 3, it will be like this. Let them imagine of the world that they want to build. And then it will be individual thing. And then class will spend together sharing these ideas with each other. And the task will be at the end of this class, when we complete this, they will create a common feature list that we all agree, these are the features. Generally we agree that these are the features. Once this is done, put it up on your classroom. These are our class idea about the world that we want to create. Every year you repeat that. So that you have a chance to revisit, change things, add things, debate about it. I said, in the very process of doing that, itself will take you there, because you have it. If you don't have a picture in your mind, you drift. You get swayed by this, swayed by that, because you don't know where you are. If you have a destination, if your MP candidate or your whoever is asking for vote to run the country, you check in your mind, is he talking about the things that we talk about? Or he doesn't? Then, okay, I'll see which one is talking my language, because that's the imagination I had. And then I design my life too, according to the life that I want to have, or world that I want to create, and make every individual student to believe he or she alone can create the world. You don't have to wait for anybody else.
We have another,
yeah.
Another one over here.
Hi, Professor. So I had a quick question.
Your name, please.
Oh, Sam Loney from the SDSN and Monash System Development Institute. My question is, what do you think of the Sustainable Development Goals? Can we achieve them? And what do you see the role of social business in helping achieve those goals?
17 goals. We had a lot of debate. I was part of that process, designing 17 goals. These are very important goals. I have a separate view on that, but I'll go straight to your question. I see 3 things for achieving the sustainable development goals. Governments will not be able to do that. It's not the job of the government to do the sustainable development goal. It's the people's job. So it has to come to the people level. So if you leave it to the government level, it's a job. They agreed in the United Nations in New York, let them handle it. It will not be done. It will just be, government will always give you a report, something is happening, but that's not really get into the root of the cause, root of the matter. So how to involve them? It should be so part of everybody's life, citizens' life, that you'll be discussing these issues on your breakfast table all the time in the family, around the family, what we have done. Then you feel that it is happening. And then three things that will need it is to young people. If young people get into the idea of sustainable development, then it will happen. So how to get to the young people? Because it is their life, 2030. They are the one who will be living through this once they finish that. So they have to be, if they believe in it, they have to work on it so that make it happen, number one. Number two, technology. You have to bring all the technology, because technology is something which can be used for dramatic changes in whatever we are talking about. Everything, all the discussion we had, it can transform in a lightning speed. We don't have, 2030 is a long way from now. It's 2017, but it's a long way in technology terms. But if you go to 2050, it's almost like the next century, because it's so speedy that it will be, in the meantime, everything will change. So you bring technology, create technology to make this, establish all of them. The third one is a social business, because these are the problems. This is a grand list of global problems. So our task will be, as individual, design social business for each piece. Tiny ones, not the big ones. If we know the tiny ones, these will be the prototype. Every social business you create is not a local social business. It's a global social business, because that problem is same everywhere. No matter what you do it in Australia, whether we do it in remote Bangladeshi village. That will be applicable in Australia. Australian thing will be applicable to us. So that's how. So don't think that I'm doing a tiny thing in my little corner. Why? Because it's a business. It can be taken up and it can grow. It's a little seedling. If you can grow seedlings, it will grow into big trees. That's it.
That is actually a fantastic place for us to end, I think, Richard. I know we're now well over time.
We just have one last...
Okay, let's have one last question and then we'll wrap up.
Okay, my name is Carol Vale, and I do thank you for taking my question. So I'm an Indigenous woman from Australia, and we are the first time, it's in my family, or probably my whole tribe, we're probably the first business, and we are a for-profit business, but obviously we do a lot of social work. So much of what you've said this morning resonates with the work that my business Marawan does, but other Indigenous businesses across this country. Audette, I believe I've got the model for you in regards to working with vulnerable women, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander women in this country, just like you're working in Uganda. So I'd love to speak to you about that. Professor Yunus, the stuff that you've talked about, being defiant and starting small, then that works towards changing paradigms. That is exactly what we need here in our country for our people. And I hope that Grameen Foundation certainly does its work with our people, because we certainly need to change the tide on what's happening here. And certainly Tim Costello talked about a lot of stuff this morning. Aboriginal women are the fastest growing cohort in our prisons across the country at the moment. So I look forward to the work that businesses can do to change the title.
We'll be very happy to work with you anytime.
And good on you for following in the tradition of the people that have stood on this land before us and trying to affect change in society. I think we have so much to learn from the first peoples of this country. Okay, I think we're well over time. I'm going to ask one last question. I think that's my prerogative.
Go ahead.
It's been such an honour talking to you. We have a saying in Uganda that is so much done, so much yet to do.
Yeah.
What is yet to do for you?
Everything. It's all waiting for us. It's all waiting for us. I give the example of the environmental campaign. When 40 years back, when people started talking about global warming, those few people who were they looked at as that these are loonies. kind of crazy guys coming from the caves talking about this. How can you disrupt this whole world, which is going for millions of years and so on? But it grew. It grew. People started to change. People started demonstrating. They're taking political action. They created political parties about it, green parties and so on. 40 years later, they all come to Paris, sign an agreement. So that's the thing that people can do. Climate thing wasn't done by the government. Remember that. It was not something government did. Government reluctantly went and signed in most of the cases because there's overwhelming people around the world pushing their government to go and sign. They were not very eager to do that. Many were finding last-minute escape route, how to get out of it. And this is the way. We have to change our economic system. There is no alternative. You have to be vocal, find out, and press the government and make legislations and whatever. And we have, between the climate change and us, difference is in climate change, we as an individual couldn't do much except being careful about our plastic, careful about our waste. That's about it. In social business, each individual is very powerful person. Designing a social business, designing a prototype. Even if you're not investing in it, still designing is very important. If you design something of social business, you don't know when it will be adopted and change the world. So please use your capacity to do that.
And that is the greatest call to action I've ever heard from a stage. Thank you so much.